stirring up trouble.
Black attack.
Black girl.
About the Nerdery.
My movie can't come out now.
Oh, so is he serious?
And welcome to the Nerdery. First up, I'm Steve, and I'm joined by Terry. And hopefully more of our friends are going to show up as the stream goes along. But for right now, we're just going to dive into nerd news first, all right? All right, the first bit of nerd news we're going to talk about is the Nintendo Switch. They had a mini direct. They announced several third-party games, including 3 from the series Persona, as well as the Portal Companion Collection. Have you played any of those games, Terry?
I have played Portal. I don't play a lot of video games, but one of the ones I have played and do love is Portal, so I might actually get a Switch if Portal will be on it.
Portal and Portal 2.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the first one, and then the second one was even better to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the very few games that can bust through my no first-person view rule, because I cannot play first-person games at all. But I had to play those games and give it a go, and I loved them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next is a bit of sad news. Greg Jean, he was the model maker for several Star Trek movies and shows, as well as Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He passed away last week. He had been nominated for Academy Awards and Emmys for all the different things he's worked on over the years. And one of my personal favorites is an underrated movie he did called Batteries Not Included. Another kitty.
Yeah, this is BMO.
I've got 3 myself, so I understand the attention they need.
It's true. One of them is mine. The rest of them belong to my roommates. But the one you saw before has kind of decided that I'm his mother now.
Next up, the Duffer Brothers, creators of the show Stranger Things. So even though the show's ending after the next season, they've announced that they're going to be doing a spin-off series of Stranger Things to keep it going. And also, they're going to be doing a live-action Death Note series, which I've never read or seen anything on, but it sounds interesting. Centers on a teenager who discovers a notebook, and when he writes down someone's name in it, they die. Are you familiar with Death Note, Terry?
I know the general premise of it. I never really watched it or anything. I know that most live-action adaptations of anime are disasters. But
the Duffer Brothers also announced that they're going to be doing a live-action series for a Stephen King book, The Talisman. And they've announced that they're doing another show that they gave no details on, just that they're working with the creators of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. The next bit of nerd news is another sad piece of news. Kazuki Takahashi, creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! He was found dead in the water wearing his scuba gear. Something I did not know is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the best-selling card game in history. I had no idea on that one. I never played it, so I didn't know it was as popular as it was to beat like other games like Magic the Gathering and Pokemon, but
mm-hmm.
And plus, if I was 60 years old, I'm not so sure I would be snorkeling, but I guess.
Yikes.
When you got a hobby, you got a hobby. It's for life. GameStop announced this week that they're going to be doing a ton of layoffs, unfortunately. Their magazine, Game Informer, is also going to be hit hard by the layoffs. What's kind of unfair about the whole situation is that it's not that its business itself is doing bad, it's that they decided to go into the NFT market, which is crashing right now. So as a result, a lot of their stores and especially their magazine is going to be hit hard with the layoffs as a result.
Stop trying to make NFTs a thing.
Yeah, stop it. Thor Love and Thunder came out yesterday. Surprisingly, for a Marvel movie, it was met with mixed reviews from critics. That didn't stop people from going to see it, as it hit about almost $70 million for opening day and expected to hit over $130 million for the weekend. But usually when a movie doesn't fare well with critics, it's like slow. It's like a harder crash as the weeks go on. So who knows how that'll go. And Captain America 4, with Sam Wilson as the new Captain America, a director was hired, Julius Ona, who directed The Cloverfield Paradox, which was sadly not a good movie. But I think it had more to do with the writing than the actual directing. Did you see Cloverfield Paradox?
No.
See,
Is it related to the other Cloverfield? That was the weird, like, shaky cam video movie,
well,
right?
the first Cloverfield movie was the shaky cam thing, and I actually love that movie. Shaky cam doesn't bother me, obviously.
Yeah, it was fine.
And I actually really like 10 Cloverfield Lane, the one with John Goodman. Did you see that one?
I didn't see that. I'd heard that it was related after the fact, as like
Sort of?
that was sort of the twist ending, was that it was sort of related to that.
Sort
I don't know.
of?
I never saw it.
Really, to me, the only connection was the name Cloverfield. But and then so Cloverfield Paradox was a movie that was released direct to Netflix. It had a lot of big names in it, but it was just not very good to me. Next piece of news is a trans superhero was announced to be joining the New Mutants. The character is called Escapade. Any backlash is really unwarranted because Marvel Comics is known for always having wide representation dating back to the 1960s when they had the first disabled superhero in Daredevil. So Marvel Comics has always been known for representation. The X-Men comics themselves are kind of interesting right now because all past dead characters have now been revived thanks to Krakoa, the island. So every single mutant who's ever been dead has been revived. All heroes, villains, doesn't matter. They don't care. They brought you back to life, and all villains were given a free pass. Look, today's day one. You can start new. They started a council, and on the council is like Sinister and Apocalypse and Exodus. So they don't care.
So we're just doing stuff.
And then they turned around and terraformed Mars and said, this is our planet. So
sure,
the X-Men comics right now are doing something very differently. And I've been reading them the past few issues, and I like the way that they're going because it's not in their comfort zone, but it's not bad writing either. And finally, our last piece of news today is another death, sadly. Pat McCallum, co-founder of Wizard magazine. And after Wizard, he joined DC Comics as an editor. But I used to really love Wizard magazine when I was a kid. And that's sad to see. Lots of deaths on this nerd news.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we will get into our discussion this week, which is going to be favorite superhero team. What is your favorite superhero team?
Oh God, I don't know, cause I feel like that's such a weird question. Like, I don't know. Like, I like Marvel movies. I like, Batman, Superman. I was never super. Actually, you know what? No, Ninja Turtles. I'm saying it.
Absolutely, that works.
Because they're a superhero team, and yeah Ninja Turtles.
All right, so what was your first experience with the Ninja Turtles?
Oh, the cartoon that was on in the 90s. Probably. Yeah.
I think it started in the 80s and went into the 90s.
Yeah, probably. I was it was probably late 80s, early 90s.
What about the movies?
Oh, for sure. Actually, yeah, I remember the first movie came out in 89, I think. I'm pretty sure. Cause I think it was
90, but Close.
Was it 90? I don't know. I have this very distinct memory of I was at a carnival, and it was one of the carnival games. The prizes were like albums for some reason. And I don't even remember what the game was, but I remember I could pick an album, and there was the Ninja Turtle soundtrack album there, and I was like, I want that. That's awesome. So I had one album, and
It is a
luckily
great
my mom had a
soundtrack.
record player. Yeah, it was a great soundtrack.
Yeah, lots of orchestrated music, which is it's like techno orchestrated, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Probably Donatello.
Mine too.
He's the correct choice.
Gotta love the nerd of the group.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of those things that like changed as I got older. Cause like I feel like Michelangelo was like my first favorite when I was real young, because I guess he was probably the most like funny and campy for like little elementary school me. And then later on I was like Michelangelo, or was Raphael, because it was like, yeah, edgy teenager. I now understand how sarcasm works. And then when I was like got older and was into science, I was like, yeah, Donatello. He's smart and knows stuff. Nobody's favorite is Leonardo.
Yeah, which is a shame. That's like how not a whole lot of people like Cyclops in the X-Men, you know. Being the leader, it's a little dull.
Yeah, somebody's gotta have two brain cells to rub together, and it just had to be him.
Yeah. What is your least favorite part about the Ninja Turtles?
God. Least favorite part. I don't know. And I say that, but I haven't really watched it recently or many of the recent. I guess that I feel like the animation style gets worse with each iteration of it.
True. To be honest with you, I never really got into the cartoon. I don't know what it was about the cartoon that didn't really grab me, but it just wasn't my thing. However, the first movie, I absolutely adore that first movie. It is just an excellent, excellent movie. I mean, not just the story or typical things when you think about judging a movie, but we're talking about Jim Henson Creations, right? Before the Disney buyout, while Henson was still alive, and they actually it was all physically real. It was before the age of really heavy CGI or anything. So you had these elaborate costumes with these ridiculous helmets that they had to wear, and then these actors had to turn around and do this insane amount of martial arts in these outfits, and not just martial arts, but really well done martial arts. So,
yeah, and that wasn't CGI. That was just full on, just guys in costumes.
Yeah. So, I mean, that first movie, I loved it as a kid, but then when I watched it again as an adult, I was just blown away by what they accomplished with that movie. But the cartoon, it just wasn't my thing, really. I mean, I love the video games, the old school Nintendo video games as well. I don't know if you ever got to play any of those.
Some of them. There's a barcade not too far from where I live that has a lot of old like video games and arcade games, and they have the old Ninja Turtle like arcade game there.
What is a barcade? Explain that to me.
It's a bar with an arcade in it. Pretty much exactly. So they have like food and drinks, but then it's old school. And some of them are more modern than others. I like the one that's in town because it's all like pinball and like Pac-Man and old style games. It's not. Some of them are much nicer. Like I say nicer as like in like newer, but like I like the ones that are the games I played when I was a kid, when my parents would like give me quarters and tell me to go play in the arcade while they go do shopping or whatever.
All right, welcome to the stream, Io.
Hey, how you doing?
We've gotten through the nerd news already. We're on our favorite superhero teams. Terry has enlightened us that her favorite superhero team is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Good team.
What is your experience with the Ninja Turtles, Io?
Oh man, it goes way back, man. Like, I remember. I think the first time I was introduced to it was as a kid, and I went to the old mall in Dover, um, Blue Hen, right?
The old mall?
Old mall, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Blue Hen.
And that was like abandoned when I moved to that area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I played the arcade game there, and I was like, "What is this?" There's like there's like a group of mutant ninja turtles that are running around, beating up like the Rat King and other
Yeah. Throwing pizzas.
throwing pizzas. It was such a good game, and and I fell in love with the that that IP.
Did you watch the cartoon at all?
Oh, I watched the cartoons too, but I didn't watch it until like I saw or I played that game. I was like, oh, okay, like where can I? We didn't have like cable when I was younger, and then later on we got it, and then I started watching the cartoons, and then I got a lot of the toys. Had a lot of the toys. Oh yeah, there you go. Donatello was my favorite.
Yeah.
Mine and Terry's too.
Yeah, man. Yeah. But I guess like all their personalities I can kind of like gel with.
Yeah, I mean, Ninja Turtles is very good at that. They have specific archetypes for their team. They got the leader, they got the brain, they got the goof off, and they got the hothead. I do like some of the side characters with the Ninja Turtles, but I don't like all of them. But I do like Casey Jones. I almost feel like he's
Jones,
the turtle.
Yeah. So wait, did the movie come out before the game?
No, the movie came out after.
Yeah. So yeah, I was like, hold on, did I? Yes. So I remember watching the movie and I was like blown away. I was like, oh snap, that's Casey Jones. That's those are the my favorite dudes. Yeah, and seeing him personally.
Remember them coming to the mall, or like, because I remember when that movie came out, like the people dressed as the characters, but they'd have like showings at like malls and.
They went on a mall tour.
Yeah.
Like
I didn't see that. I didn't get to see him in person, I guess.
Terry, do you have any favorite villains from the Ninja Turtles?
Gosh. What's his name? Crane? Was that the brain in his stomach?
Yeah.
I thought he was funny just because every episode he was in, he had like a different like containment suit for himself. Like sometimes he had like he built himself this very creepy like anthropomorphic robot thing to like ride around in its stomach, and then sometimes he was just in a like little like walker thing, and I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, nice.
All right, so are you up with Ninja Turtles where they're at currently?
No, not at all.
I think right now they're doing a storyline where Michelangelo is the only surviving turtle.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yes, I saw something on that.
So there's lots of artwork online right now. That's mainly the depth of that I know is that Michelangelo's the only living one right now.
Yeah. You guys remember Yosagi Yojimbo?
Oh yeah, the bunny rabbit.
The rabbit. Yeah.
He's like a samurai. I think he's just like from another dimension or something. So
yeah. Was that Dimension X where you remember the neutrinos? They were cool.
Oh, no.
They were these kids. I think they were from Dimension X, but all I remember they had a flying car. So they would just like randomly show up. They weren't bad guys. I think they just caused chaos. They were just entities of chaos. They weren't necessarily like good guys or bad guys. They would just sort of show up in a flying car sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I remember some of the villains that I liked were like Rat King and
Rat King, love
the
Rat
crocodile that had like a Cajun accent. And Baxter Stockman, the Fly.
Yes.
And
was it Leatherback?
What's that?
Leatherback.
I do. I
Oh,
don't
you don't
remember. And
Sounds
I
about right.
remember, like, towards the later seasons of the cartoon, I just remembered where they had, like, an extra mutation where they became, like, big Hulk-like creatures.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Like, it's so long ago that I
Yeah.
watched.
All right, what's your favorite superhero team?
My favorite super. Oh, man. I probably should have prepared. Let me think here.
That's a hard question.
Not, well, because there's so many out there, and it's like, I guess I would go for the X-Men. Always like them. Um, just as a kid, reading all the comics. Well, not all the comics, but a lot of the comics, and being like, man, every week or every month, waiting for the next installment. What's Scott Summers gonna do here? Is Wolverine gonna save the day in this area? What's Dazzler up to?
What was your first exposure to the X-Men?
Comics. The comics. I think like I had found one of my brother's like old one of the comic, and it didn't have like the cover on it. It was just a random comic laying on the ground, and I picked it up and started reading it. I was like, oh wow, this is like such a cool thing. And then
Do you remember what comic it was?
Oh man, it was one with man. So I remember it had Rogue in it, and she was not like the later on Rogue where she got Captain Marvel's powers.
Oh wow, so very old.
So yeah, very old. She was still rocking the green, and she had like a short cut, and then like she had like a little white. I mean, of course, her haircut in the comics, and then there's like the queen. I can't remember much about it.
I think when that was the Australia run of the series. In the mid 80s, the X-Men were kind of stuck in Australia for a while. It was like Rogue, Longshot, Dazzler, Wolverine, yep. Colossus, and I think Psylocke. I think that was the team, and that was when Psylocke was still in her original British body. Not the like sexy Asian ninja.
Yeah,
when she swapped bodies with an assassin. So she was like just a blind British telepath back then.
But I think that the mission was like they had to save. There was like a queen. I forget, man. So I know, man. I'm trying to remember, like what they were trying to do. It was like some.
When Havoc was on the
Intergalactic,
team. Huh? Havoc and Polaris, I think, were on the team at the time too.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if I like.
What are your favorite characters from the X-Men?
Favorite characters? I liked Beast. I like Beast. I like
hard pass for me. I hate Beast.
You hate Beast?
I hate Beast.
Yeah, Beast was a problem for a little bit, man. It was like, but it was, he was a lovable scientist dude, but then he kept getting into like doing goofy shit, like, but of course, I'm sorry, man. Always getting calls. So I turn this off. Anyway, hold on, give me a second.
Okay. What's your let me hide him or something. Oh, I can edit his name. That's interesting.
Well,
I'll just leave him. What is your history with the X-Men? How much have you watched it or read?
Some. I didn't really watch it or know a lot about it when I was a kid. Like I would catch episodes, I think, occasionally. I never read the comics or anything. I remember when the first movie came out, the one with like Patrick Stewart and like that whole that whole franchise, and I really like that. I remember playing some X-Men game that came out. It was like a fighting game. I remember playing that a whole lot in college. So I guess I was kind of like older and more after the movies came out that I got more into the X-Men.
That's fair. Because that was its first like mainstream exposure.
Yeah,
It
yeah, I
was
definitely wasn't until it became more of a like mainstream thing.
and it was thanks to the X-Men really and its wide mainstream appeal and the fact that the first movie made a ton of money that they turned around and said, you know what, let's make the Spider-Man movie, and
Yeah,
that
because
made
really
a ton of money. So
yeah, because I remember like most superhero movies they tried to make bombed
yeah,
before X-Men, and I think a lot of them have. But yeah, because I remember it was Superman movies would come out very sporadically, and they usually weren't very good. But X-Men, I think, was the
well,
first one I remember that was
they
actually good.
they stopped the Superman movies after Superman 4 because it was bombing really badly. But then Batman was a huge success. And then the sequel did well, not as well as the first, but well. And then Batman Forever came out, which did well, but was like not a step forward. It was a step backward for in terms
Mhm.
of goofiness and everything. And then the fourth one came out. I think it was Batman and Robin, and that was just horrible. It was so horrible it killed superhero movies for a while. And then so they kind of that's why X-Men was like so dark and gritty and serious because they really wanted to turn around from the goofy campy superhero movie and go towards a more serious take on superhero movies, and that's why X-Men was such a success. And
Mhm.
it really kickstarted the whole idea of, hey, let's give superheroes another try. And it was really thanks to that first X-Men movie doing well that they took the chance on Spider-Man. And then they realized how much money there was in this still, and thanks to the, advancement of CGI. So
Yeah.
And now all the movies are superhero movies.
And now all movies are superhero movies. Every last one.
Everybody's a superhero.
Everybody's a superhero.
So what are your favorite storylines from X-Men IO?
My favorite storylines, the Phoenix. That was like one of
Phoenix
the
Saga?
the Phoenix Saga. That was pretty wild.
You're talking about from the cartoon or the comic?
The comic. And then, but it's been so long since I last read like any X-Men, comics. But they kind of still hold a little place in my heart.
Who are your favorite characters from the
Oh,
team?
from the what?
Who were your favorite characters from the team?
From the team? Oh, yeah, it was Beast. It was I love Bishop. Bishop was cool.
I love the moment in X-Men Onslaught when Bishop had to apologize to Gambit.
Oh yeah, what? I don't.
Because Bishop's whole storyline was the X-Men are all dead. There was a traitor in their midst. He went back in time to kill that traitor, and he assumed that traitor was Gambit.
Yes.
So for like years, he's like, I don't trust you. You're garbage. You're going to betray the team, get them all killed, blah, blah, blah. And as it turns out, it was Professor X who was the traitor.
Yeah, because of Onslaught. Yeah. But, yeah. I like Bishop, yeah, the fact that he came back. What was the, he had an M on his face. What was that from again?
That was to designate mutant.
Mutant, right.
Yeah. But I really hated what they did with the character later on, where he was trying to murder Hope Summers. Basically, they did a storyline where he was chasing Cable. Cable was protecting Hope Summers, and they were just jumping through time constantly with Bishop chasing after them to try to kill Hope. I hated that whole storyline.
Yeah.
I get Bishop's motivation behind it, but Bishop was a hero. He wouldn't kill a child.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm guessing, he went a little hardcore. I guess that would have been like a Cable kind of. Yeah. No,
I think it was just the writer was like, I have an idea. And Marvel was like, well, we don't care about Bishop. Go ahead.
Spaghetti on the wall. Yeah, well, yes.
I think my favorite Bishop story is The Age of Apocalypse.
Okay.
Because that definitely is a Bishop story.
Uh-huh.
Because he survived Legion killing Professor X in the past and changing the whole timeline because Bishop technically wasn't from the same timeline, so he survived and kind of kickstarted the whole, oh, we need to fix this.
Right.
What are your favorite villains from the X-Men?
Favorite villains. I liked Mr. Sinister. He was always fun to see, like, his character design.
One thing I like from the comics that they didn't explore in the cartoon was that Sinister hated Apocalypse. In the cartoon, he was always his ally, but in the comics, no, Sinister absolutely despises Apocalypse, created Cable with the intention of creating something that could kill Apocalypse.
Right. There's always like some machinations behind, the scene. He was always up to something. Always.
I also like the reveal of Gambit's dirty secret about how he led the Marauders to the Morlock tunnels through Sinister's orders, because Sinister viewed the Marauders viewed the Morlocks as a mistake, genetic mistakes that needed to be purged.
Yeah.
So that's the whole motivation behind the Morlock massacre that happened. As it turns out, we would find out much later on that Dark Beast from the Age of Apocalypse was the one who created the Morlocks.
Yeah. There's so many weird, little tidbits in X-Men, because, every month they would, but they had how many running series at one time did they have for each, like for the X-Men? There's a bunch.
Yeah,
right?
Because X-Men became very, very, very popular in the early 90s. I mean, they sold comics like hotcakes for the X-Men. So they had so many off-branch teams that I felt had their own unique quirks to them. There was the X-Men. Then there was the X-Men, various teams, X-Men Gold and X-Men Blue.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had so many members of the team that they split it in half, basically. Cyclops led one team, Storm led the other.
Yeah.
Then there was X-Factor. There was X-Force. There was Excalibur. There was Generation X. There was so many teams because they were all selling. So why not just keep it going? Until eventually the market burst from having too many X-Men comics out there.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, would Magneto count as a villain?
Yes, I would say so. Even though he doubles. He can be either or.
Yeah, I liked him a lot.
He's been at times a member of the X-Men. At times he's led the New Mutants. At times, but I would say since he started out as a villain, and I would say roughly half of his time in the comics is as a villain. So
remember like that? I'm sure you do, but the storyline where like it was some escaped mutants, like trying to, like, they're running away from, I guess, like some Earth Federation, whatever, and they made it to like the moon that he was
Asteroid
on.
M, you mean?
Asteroid M, yeah. And they got like one of the girls got shot in front of him. It was like, bunk this, and like started like his another campaign to destroy the human race.
I liked when it was pointed out how powerful his powers could be, and like when he just got so frustrated with Wolverine once, he just sucked the adamantium right out of him.
Yep. He lost his nose. His face was all flat, Baltimore-ish.
Yeah.
Became
but I mean, how goofy is it for Colossus and Wolverine to be on the X-Men versus Magneto? I mean, come on.
Yes. It's pretty hilarious. Oh man.
All right.
Oh, there you go.
And the reason I'm able to discuss the X-Men so much and in such detail is because they are also my favorite superhero team.
Oh, nice.
My first exposure to them was actually the cartoon. Saturday morning cartoons. The X-Men came on. I wasn't too big into the Spider-Man cartoon, but that X-Men cartoon really, really reached me because it was a team of misfits. You had, Justice League, you had Avengers who were like the pinnacle of superheroes and doing good and righting the wrongs, whereas the X-Men were like rejects. Yeah. And that really hit me hard because I always felt like a misfit growing up. And it wasn't just about fighting the villains and saving the day with the X-Men. It was about their personal lives a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also about the core of the X-Men cartoon also dived into the core of the original X-Men book, which was, you know, a metaphor for racism at the time, you know, civil rights in the 1960s, you know, should mutants have equal rights? Should they be judged for the way they were born? You know, things they can't control. So the X-Men was always a metaphor for civil rights in the 1960s. They've since, you know, drifted away from that dramatically. And so, you know, I fell out of comics because the X-Men comics were trash for over a decade.
Yeah.
You know, starting in the late 90s, I'd say, is when they really hit the skids. So some of my favorite storylines are from the early 90s, because after I loved the cartoon is when I got into comics. And it was X-Men comics as a result. So my favorite storylines were the Phalanx Covenant and the Age of Apocalypse, because that was 93, 94 when I was first getting into comics. And those were the storylines at the time. And they just were epic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I couldn't even conceive of alternate universes or, you know, things like that at such a young age. My favorite characters from the X-Men. My first favorite character was Gambit, because, you know, the cartoon.
Remy LeBeau.
What can you do? But after I read the comics and first started reading the Phalanx Covenant with Banshee would go on to become my favorite character, the Irish guy.
Yeah,
yes. Who's been done dirty over the years
yeah.
by writers.
He kind of has, yeah.
But characters such as Gambit, Rogue, and Phoenix have always been some of my favorites still in the comics from the X-Men. But Banshee will always be my favorite, no matter what some of the writers do, especially Joss Whedon, who pissed me off so much with what he did to Banshee.
God.
When Joss Whedon was given the reins of the X-Men, he straight up murdered Banshee immediately, and I was like, what the fuck?
We could do a whole episode on Joss Whedon ruining things, because I have opinions.
I appreciate what the guy built for himself, but personally,
and then proceeded to destroy.
I mean, the guy was supposed to be the pinnacle of, you know,
you were the chosen one.
Yeah, you were the
and
chosen
it turns
one.
out he's like,
you know, you're supposed to destroy the sis, not the point. Well, that's what it is.
And but back to the X-Men. I do not like the X-Men movies because
not even the first one.
First one was okay. Second one was even better. Mm-hmm. But they weren't really showcasing the X-Men. It was the Wolverine show featuring the X-Men.
Yeah,
that's what I didn't like about it.
I feel like there's a problem with a lot of comic movies where they'll just like fixate on one character and just decide that like this is now the Wolverine show or this is now the Iron Man show. And it's like there are better characters. You know that, right?
Absolutely. You know what's funny? Like, you know, I was doing a little research for whatever reason, and I was like, I looked up Wolverine and like some of his stats or whatever. You know, now he's 6'2".
In the comics?
Well, that's what they said. Like in his,
that was such a huge miscast.
Absolutely,
having this, but because Wolverine was the main character, he couldn't be no 5'3" guy.
Right.
So
I was like, what? Get out of here! Wolverine will and forever will be 5'3". You know,
I almost want to know what the
400 pounds.
storyline excuse for Wolverine growing a foot is.
Hugh Jackman.
I'm sure they have some goofy ass reason. I can't remember what the reason was for turning Mystique into the movie version. Because all of a sudden Mystique went from looking all blue, normally to looking like the Rebecca Romaine Stamos version, and it was like,
yeah.
Well, she was. That was just she just kind of picked that to how she liked to look, I guess.
Well, no, in the comics, Mystique didn't look like that. But after the success of the X-Men, they turned the comic book version of Mystique to look like the movie version. And they had to come up with a storyline reason for it. And it was just like, it was bad. That's all I remember. It was just like really weak. And over time, it happened a lot in comics. Like, comic versions of characters had to start looking like the movie characters.
Yeah.
Like
Nick Fury.
No, that's based on the comic. That's based on the Ultimate version of Nick Fury.
Gotcha.
And they actually got permission
from a whole thing
before the movies came out to use his likeness for the comics, and he was okay with it. So that's
wasn't that a whole thing that they could use it as long as he was cast in a movie if they ever made a movie or something like that? I know there was some deal he had made about it at some point.
I know Hasselhoff was really bitter about it because David Hasselhoff claimed that he was supposed to be Nick Fury.
Yeah, he was.
No.
Yeah.
I also feel like Samuel Jackson should just walk into any movie studio and be like, I'm in this movie now. And they're like, all right, that's fair.
Here's a question. Captain America in the Winter Soldier movie, he's got a list of everything he needs to watch, which includes Star Wars. So wouldn't that be a little confusing when Mace Windu comes on the screen?
I think it would. You'd be like, hold on. Or it might make sense. You know?
And, well, had he ever met, because I just saw something about, what's her name? Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Though I don't know if Captain America would have ever interacted with her. Yeah.
Oh, what'd you think of the movie?
But I just saw something about how, I just saw something about how, what's his name? I can never say his name right. The director of the Thor movie.
Taika
Waititi.
Thank you. Taika Waititi. I can never remember how to say his name right. But I guess he said something to Natalie Portman about like, oh, I'm working on something for Star Wars. Have you ever been interested in being in a Star Wars movie? And she's just like, really?
That's cool. That's cool.
I don't know how I would. I mean, you have to try to be nice, but really you're screaming on the inside.
Right.
Yeah.
I was freaking Princess Amidala. How dare you?
Queen Amidala.
Queen Amidala. Sorry.
Jeez.
Oh,
Jeez, Io.
I know. It's my fault. I apologize. Yes, Queen Amidala. Sorry.
The Thor movie was good. Let me get that out of the way. Not as good as Ragnarok.
I want to see that.
But it was good. It's also it was short. It was less than 2 hours.
Okay.
I guess Taika Waititi was like, I'm doing this for the paycheck. I'm in and out.
Oh.
I feel like he knows what he's about, and I feel like I probably like the Thor movies more than like the movies from the other. Like I probably like the Thor movies the most out of the Marvel movies, and I think it's because the Thor movies know what they're about. Like, you know what you're about. You know you're going to see Thor's abs. You know you're going to see a bunch of, like, very pretty, colorful ridiculousness. And, like, it
was definitely the biggest challenge. It was the biggest challenge in the MCU. You can introduce Captain America into the Iron Man universe. That's not too hard thematically. Thor, introducing him into... that was such a reach, and they pulled it off. You know, it wasn't easy, but they pulled it off.
Okay.
But, so that was our favorite superhero teams. This was suggested by G as doing this for the show today, but he actually, as it turned out, couldn't make it for the show today, so.
Of course. That's fine. We're all busy.
It would have been Battlestar Galactica if I had known G wasn't going to be here.
Oh, yes. Battlestar Galactica. Nice. Well, that's always next time.
Yes. But that's it for the show today. And thank you all for watching this live or in replay. And I hope you all have a good time and think about what your favorite superhero teams were.